The twin suns were high above the arena, casting a blazing light over the stone floor below. The ground was cracked from centuries of combat, with dried lines of old blood marking the places where warriors had fallen. Around the oval arena, thousands of alien spectators filled the marble stands, their faces painted in ritual colors, their voices echoing with excitement. A trial was about to begin. This was not just any trial. It was the rite of flame and honor, a sacred test where warriors from across the empire would prove their strength. But today the crowd was not cheering for one of their own. Today, they were gathered to watch a strange, soft-skinned creature, a human, face their undefeated princess in combat. His name was Daniel Reeve, a former maintenance technician from Earth who had been captured weeks ago by a patrol ship while scavenging near a restricted system. The aliens called themselves the Virelians, tall and silver-skinned beings with eyes like fire and a culture built on power and legacy. Daniel had been thrown into prison, beaten, questioned, and finally placed in the arena as punishment, for amusement. He stood barefoot on the stone, bruised but not broken, watching the massive golden gates opposite him. His clothes were torn, and dust clung to his face. Despite the heat and the roar of the crowd, Daniel stood straight. His eyes were calm. The gates creaked open. Out stepped a figure in gleaming armor, carrying a long, curved spear that shimmered with energy. Her black and gold armor hugged her, tall frame like it was born for her, her long white hair tied behind her helmet. A hush fell over the crowd. Princess Kalara, daughter of the warlord, chosen heir of the spear, the undefeated champion of her people. She moved with grace and power. Her eyes locked on Daniel as she approached the center of the arena. She twirled the spear once, and the air around it hissed. "He doesn't even have a weapon," someone in the crowd laughed. "He won't last a minute." Kalara stopped a few paces from him. "They say your kind is weak," she said in a clear voice, loud enough for all to hear. "You were thrown into this arena to die with honor. Do you understand?" Daniel met her gaze. "Yeah, I get the message." She narrowed her eyes. "Then kneel. I will end you quickly." But Daniel didn't kneel. Instead, he looked at her with something strange in his eyes. Not fear, not defiance, but recognition. And then he spoke softly, but every word carried through the silent arena like thunder. "Elith Karai." Kalara froze. Her hands tightened on the spear. Her breath caught. No one had spoken that word in 1,000 years. It was not a name that was ever said aloud. It was her true name, given only once during a hidden ceremony known only to the royal bloodline. Even her personal guards didn't know it. It was sealed in flame, bound by vow. Her father had warned her, "If anyone ever speaks your true name, they are either your soulmate or your doom." Her knees bent slightly, the spear dipping in her grip. She stared at the human like he had just torn the stars from the sky. "What did you say?" she whispered, voice shaking. Daniel didn't move. "Your name," he said. "Your real one." "That's not possible," she said, her voice cracking. The crowd didn't understand. They only saw the feared warrior princess falter. The elder priests watching from the balcony leaned forward. Kalara stepped back. The spear trembled in her hands. "How do you know that name?" she asked again. Daniel shrugged lightly. "I've heard it in my dreams since I was a kid. It meant nothing to me until I saw you." Kalara's heartbeat thundered in her ears. The air around her felt heavier. Her fingers couldn't steady the spear. This was impossible, blasphemous. Her true name was sacred, spoken only once by the flame priestess when she was a child. Even her own mother never knew it. And yet this human, this strange, ragged creature from a distant blue world, had spoken it like a lullaby. "I should kill you," she whispered, "for speaking it aloud." "I believe you," Daniel replied calmly, "but you won't." She took another step back. The crowd started to murmur, whispers of confusion, of doubt. Why hadn't she struck? What was happening? Daniel could feel the shift in the air. It wasn't just fear, it was disruption. This society had never seen a warrior like him, not because of strength, but because of mystery. They believed everything had rules. But here he was, breaking one of their oldest. "Who are you?" she asked, more to herself than to him. "I don't know yet," he answered honestly. "But I think you do." She lowered her spear just slightly and the crowd gasped. "You were brought here to die," she said, trying to rebuild her control. "I was told to end you for sport." "Then do it," Daniel said. "Strike me down. Prove I'm nothing." She hesitated. The air shimmered around her. The high priestess stood from her seat above the arena, speaking in a deep, echoing voice. "Princess Kalyra, you were chosen to test the human. He is unarmed. End this." Kalyra stared at Daniel. She saw no weapon in his hand, no armor on his body. But there was something in his eyes, calm, unmoved by fear or pain, and then she noticed something else. The spear was glowing faintly, a pulsing warmth like it had sensed something ancient. That should be impossible. She turned slightly to the priestess and raised her voice. "This trial is not yet complete." Murmurs again. The elders frowned. "What are you doing?" barked the warlord from the throne above. "Strike him down, Kalyra." But she didn't. Instead, she dropped her fighting stance and slowly walked around Daniel, observing him. "Your kind cannot access the deep codes," she said. "Your people are unmarked by the star script. You are not of the blood. And yet—" Daniel remained still. "Maybe I'm not here to fight. Maybe I'm here to remind you of something you've forgotten." Her spear's glow faded. The heat in the air dimmed. She stopped in front of him again. The crowd had fallen completely silent now. No one knew what to do. This was not the path the rite was supposed to take. "I need answers," she said at last, "and I will have them." She turned to the high seats. "I claim this prisoner under the law of flame inquiry. He is not to be harmed until I understand his connection to the name." The crowd erupted. Protests, confusion, outrage. The warlord stood. "You dare invoke that ancient law over a human?" Kalyra stood tall. "I do. And if we deny you?" She looked back at Daniel, who simply nodded once, like he understood something even she didn't. "Then you deny your own prophecy," she said. Daniel was not returned to his cell that evening. Instead, he was escorted by the princess herself to the inner chambers of the high tower. There, past ancient books and glowing runes, she locked the door and faced him. "Tell me everything," she said. And Daniel did. He spoke of dreams that began when he was just a boy on Earth, of a name that haunted his sleep, of fire-colored eyes in visions, of a woman holding a spear on a broken world, of voices that whispered, "One day you must speak her name before she forgets who she is." Kalyra listened without interruption. Her hands never reached for the spear again that night. She knew something had changed, and though she had no words for it yet, one truth began to form clearly in her heart. This human was not sent to die. He was sent to wake her. The ancient tower was quiet. No footsteps echoed in the halls. No servants were allowed to enter. In a room lit only by a single glowing crystal on the wall, Princess Kalyra sat across from the human who had spoken her true name. Her armor was gone now, replaced by a dark royal robe. Daniel still wore the same tattered clothes, but his posture hadn't changed. He looked as if he didn't belong, but somehow felt like he did. Kalyra had spent hours pacing after the arena. Her mind replayed the moment again and again, the way the spear had trembled, how the crowd had gone silent, how her fingers couldn't hold it steady after that one impossible word. That name, that cursed, sacred, impossible name. And now, here, they were alone. Daniel sat on a simple stone bench. "You've been staring at me for a long time." Kalyra didn't blink. "Because you don't make sense." "I get that a lot," he said, managing a small smile. "This name, Alith Kare, it belongs only to the Fireblood royal line. Not even my closest generals know it. It's burned into my spirit flame. If you were lying, the spear would have ended you the moment you said it. But I'm still here, Daniel said. Yes, she admitted. And that's what terrifies me. She moved to a narrow window and stared out at the glowing towers of the capital city. Virelia had stood for thousands of years, unshaken by storms, wars, or outsiders, until today. My people believe the true name is not just a word, she said quietly. It's a thread of fate. If someone speaks it, it means the stars have chosen a path that cannot be denied. Daniel tilted his head. So, what does that make me? Kalira didn't answer right away. I don't know. A warning maybe? Or a guide? Or something worse? Daniel finished. She didn't deny it. I don't want to cause a war, Daniel said. I didn't ask for any of this. And yet, she said, turning toward him, you stood in front of me without a weapon. You looked into my eyes and said something you shouldn't know. Why? I've had dreams since I was a child, he said softly. Dreams of fire, of a city with 2 suns, of you. Her eyes narrowed. Me? Yes. Not your face, not your name, but your presence. The spear, the eyes, and always the same voice at the end, whispering that name. Kalira's heart beat faster. There's a temple, she said suddenly, far from here, in the mountains. It's sealed, forbidden to all except the chosen. Even I haven't entered it. But the flames inside, they're said to show the truth. Daniel stood. Are you saying we should go there? I'm saying, I need to know why the spear didn't burn you. And if the flames answer questions, I want answers. A knock echoed through the chamber doors. Princess, a voice said. The council demands your presence. They say the human must be returned. Kalira didn't move. Tell them I'm praying. But, she raised her voice. Do you challenge my right to silence? The guard paused. No, princess. Footsteps faded. Daniel looked impressed. You're not afraid of them? I am, she admitted. But I'm more afraid of not knowing the truth. She turned to him. Will you come with me to the Temple of Flame? He nodded. Yeah, I think that's where I'm supposed to go. The journey began that night. Wrapped in cloaks, they slipped out through a hidden tunnel beneath the tower. Kalira brought only what was needed. A pack of food, water, and a stone that guided them with warm pulses whenever they faced the right direction. The flame compass was another ancient relic, used only by royal blood. Daniel followed quietly. He didn't ask about the glowing skyfish above them or the whispering trees that bent toward the road. He had seen them in his dreams. 3 days passed as they moved through wild terrain, lava plains, glowing valleys, and narrow cliffs. Kalira didn't talk much. She kept glancing at him, studying him. On the 4th night, they camped by a red waterfall that sang when wind passed through it. Kalira finally broke the silence. Why didn't you fight me in the arena? Daniel looked into the fire. Because I wasn't supposed to. You would have died. I didn't feel like I would. She shook her head. You were either foolish or chosen. I think both. She looked away, unsure whether to laugh or worry. By the 6th day they stood before the Temple of Flame. It was carved into the side of a black mountain, with red vines covering its stone doors. The air was hot, heavy. The mountain whispered like it breathed. Kalira placed her hand on the door. This temple only opens to one who carries the flame in their blood. It recognizes lineage. She pressed her palm flat. The door glowed. Then, without warning, Daniel reached out and placed his hand beside hers. The glow turned brighter, warmer. Then the door opened. Kalira stepped back. What did you do? Daniel stared at his hand. I don't know. The flames inside the temple lit one by one. Golden fire danced along the walls, illuminating carvings of warriors, stars, and beasts long extinct. They walked slowly inside, past a circle of thrones and a wide flame in the center of the chamber. The heart fire, Kalira whispered. They say if you speak into it, it shows your soul's origin. Daniel stepped forward. The fire responded, not with heat, but with visions. Shapes appeared inside the flames, a ship crossing stars, a child staring into the sky, a warrior maiden holding a spear, and finally, a promise made long ago. Kalira gasped. That's my mother. That's my grandmother. In the flames, a young woman stood before a mirror. She whispered a name into it. Alith Kare. The flame took it and hid it. Then another figure appeared. A human elder holding a book with symbols. The prophecy, Kalira whispered. The chosen outsider. Daniel turned to her. What prophecy? She looked at him, her voice suddenly quiet. There's a story passed down, in my family. A tale that one day a voice from another star would speak the fire name to awaken the bloodline, and that the one who hears it must decide between the throne and the truth. Daniel felt his chest tighten. What does that mean? Kalira stepped closer. It means I must choose, between the rule I was born for, or the path the fire shows. They both stared into the flames. Outside the temple, the wind picked up. They didn't know that scouts had seen them days ago, that a royal airship now hovered miles away watching. In the capital, the warlord slammed his fist into the stone table. She has taken the human to the temple? He roared. Yes, Lord, said the advisor. The prophecy may be true. Then she threatens the throne. We must act. Back in the temple, Kalira sat beside Daniel. I don't know why you were given this path, she said softly, but I believe you didn't choose it. I didn't, Daniel said. But now I don't want to walk away from it either. She turned her head. You're not afraid? I am, but not of you. Not anymore. She smiled faintly. You shouldn't trust me so easily. I don't, he said, but I trust the voice that gave me your name. Kalira looked down at the spear resting near the flame. It's never shaken before, she whispered. And now? Daniel asked. She touched it. The weapon was warm, but calm. I think, she said, it's waiting. Far above them, the airship's engines hummed, and inside it the warlord prepared to descend upon the temple with fire and fury. He would not let a prophecy steal his daughter or his crown. The temple's firelight still danced gently against the stone walls. The heart fire had dimmed now, but its warmth remained like an echo inside both of them. Kalira, the alien princess bound by duty, and Daniel, the human whose presence had shaken the empire. Outside, a new sound began to rise, a low rumble like thunder echoing through the mountains. The ground trembled slightly beneath their feet. Kalira stood first. Her eyes narrowed. They've found us. Daniel rose slowly. You sure? She walked to the narrow crack in the temple wall and peered through it. In the distance, descending from the sky like a dark omen, was a royal airship. Long, sharp, and painted in the black and gold colors of the warlord's crest. Her father had come. Kalira turned away from the window, calm but alert. We have little time. He will not come to talk. Daniel felt a strange sense of peace. So, what now? Kalira looked at the spear leaning beside the heart fire. It hadn't moved since the moment it touched the flames. Now we finish what we started. She approached the weapon, hesitating for a moment. Then she gripped it. The spear didn't tremble this time. Instead it glowed, not with the usual red heat of battle, but with a soft golden light. The same color as the heart fire. Daniel stepped back. Is that supposed to happen? No, she whispered, voice filled with awe. It's never done this before. The spear pulsed once like it had accepted something new. Not just her hand, but his presence. Kalira turned to him. You have changed the flame. I didn't mean to. You didn't have to mean it, she said. You were meant to. The royal ship landed outside the temple. A wave of armored guards stepped out first, their boots hitting the black stone like drums of war. Behind them walked a towering figure in dark battle robes. His voice carried without effort. Kalira, the warlord roared. Come out, now. Kalira stood at the edge of the temple's threshold. The shadows of the columns fell across her face, but she was not afraid. She held the glowing spear in one hand. I am here, she said, but I will not return. The warlord took a slow, heavy step forward. You have defied the throne. You stole the human from judgment. And now, you bring shame upon your name. Kalira's voice was clear. No, I've uncovered the truth. The prophecy was real. The flame accepted him. The warlord raised one hand. Do not speak of flame and fate. You speak only madness. The spear glows for him, she said. The temple opened to him. You can't ignore what's happened. The warlord's face twisted. You were chosen to lead this empire, not to follow dreams and riddles. Daniel stepped beside her, silent but steady. The warlord's eyes landed on him. You dare stand beside my daughter? Daniel didn't flinch. I didn't choose this, but I won't run from it. The warlord raised his hand, signaling the guards to ready their weapons. Kalira stepped forward, spear rising. No one attacks him. You would raise your weapon for a human? The warlord growled. You forget your place. Kalira held his gaze. No. For the first time. I remember it clearly. Suddenly, the air shimmered behind them. The heartfire flared up inside the temple, casting a glowing wind out across the cliffs. It raced past them, golden and wild, spiraling into the sky. The soldiers stopped, their helmets glowing in the flame's presence. The warlord looked around, confused. What is this trickery? Kalira didn't answer. The flame light spun high into the sky and formed a symbol, a circle of stars with a single line through it, the mark of the elder bond, a symbol thought to be lost in ancient times. Gasps came from the guards. Even the warlord stepped back in disbelief. That can't be, he muttered. Kalira turned to Daniel. That mark only appears when a warrior has met their soul counterpart. He looked at her, unsure. What does that mean for us? She looked down at her hands. It means you were sent to me, not by war, not by fate alone, but by bond. A link between flames, between paths. Daniel swallowed. So now what? Kalira stepped forward again. We walk through fire. The confrontation was no longer about a prisoner or a prophecy. It was about truth versus fear. Kalira addressed the soldiers directly. You all follow tradition, but traditions can blind us. The spear that led our ancestors has changed. The flame that gave us law has spoken again. One of the guards lowered his weapon, then another. The warlord growled. Traitors, you abandon the throne for riddles? A young guard spoke. We serve the flame, Lord, and the flame has chosen. The warlord shouted. Then I will burn it down myself. He drew his flame axe, a weapon passed down from the original founder of their empire, and charged forward. Kalira blocked his strike with her spear. The clash lit up the sky. Daniel stepped, back unsure if he should help. This was a battle of legends now. Father and daughter, both born of flame, both wielding ancient power. Sparks flew as their weapons collided again and again. The ground cracked beneath them. Fire burst from the mountain's edge. You would throw away everything for a human? The warlord shouted as he swung again. Kalira's voice was calm even as she fought. I would protect the truth, even if it cost me everything. With a final strike, she spun and knocked the axe from his hands. The warlord fell to his knees, gasping. Kalira pointed the tip of her spear at him, but her hands didn't shake. Do not want your throne, she said, but I will not let you bury the truth beneath it." The warlord looked up at her, sweat and dust on his face. "Then what are you, daughter?" She stepped back. "Something new." Daniel helped her down from the platform. The wind had cooled now. The soldiers, silent at first, slowly knelt, first in respect, then in recognition, not of the throne, but of change. Later that evening, the temple stood quiet again. Kalira sat by the heart fire with Daniel. "I never thought this path would find me," she said. "Neither did I," he said. "I just wanted to survive. Now I'm part of a fire-carrying prophecy." She smiled for the first time in days. "The old ways say when someone speaks your true name, they carry a piece of your future inside them." Daniel looked at her. "And what happens next?" She looked at the spear. "The throne is broken, but the path ahead isn't. We make it now." Daniel leaned back against the stone wall. "Together?" Kalira nodded. "If you'll walk with me." He didn't hesitate. "Yeah, I think I was always meant to." Outside, the golden wind still whispered over the mountains, carrying the tale of a human who spoke a name that wasn't his, and a princess who listened. The mountain wind had grown quiet after the battle. Only the soft crackling of the heart fire inside the temple remained, casting long shadows across the ancient carvings. Princess Kalira sat at the edge of the stone platform, her spear beside her, glowing faintly with golden warmth. Across from her sat Daniel, the human who had unknowingly spoken her sacred name and forever changed the fate of her world. They had shared silence for hours, but the silence between them was no longer heavy with fear. It was thoughtful, deep, like two rivers that had met at a crossroads, unsure of where to flow next. "Do you regret it?" Daniel asked softly, breaking the silence. Kalira looked up. "Regret what?" "Standing against your father, turning your back on the throne." She thought about it. "No," she said honestly. "I regret how long it took me to see that I was always meant for something more than just wearing a crown." Daniel nodded. "You were meant to lead, just not with lies." Kalira smiled slightly, but her smile faded as she stood and walked toward the flame again. "We may have defeated the warlord, but the Empire is still watching," she said. "There are clans across the stars who will see this as weakness. They will come. They will challenge us. They won't believe a human was chosen by the flame." Daniel stood slowly. "Then we show them." She turned to face him. "You still don't understand how dangerous that is." "I understand enough," he said, "but I'd rather stand in danger with you than run and pretend none of this ever happened." Kalira stared at him for a long moment. "The flame didn't just choose you because of a prophecy. It chose you because of what's inside you. Courage, stillness, honor." Daniel scratched his head. "That's flattering, but I think the flame's got a weird sense of humor." Kalira gave a short laugh. "Perhaps." Then her voice grew serious again. "But I want to take you somewhere. A place where no outsider has ever gone. A place even I feared to enter." Daniel looked curious. "Where?" She lowered her voice. "The Vault of Names." At dawn, they began their journey once more. Kalira rode a two-legged beast with glowing eyes, and Daniel followed on a smaller glider platform powered by flame crystals. The path led them through canyons of whispering stone, where every step echoed like voices from the past. The Vault of Names was hidden beneath the ruins of the first Virelian capital, a forgotten city carved deep into the cliffs. The path was dangerous. Old traps guarded the way, built long ago to keep enemies and the curious away from what lay beneath. But Kalira knew the route. She had studied the old scrolls. She had once hoped to reach it with her mother. Before, her mother vanished into the flame wars. By midday, they stood before a large black wall. Symbols shimmered across it, and in its center a circular lock spun slowly, glowing blue. Kalira placed her palm on it. A voice echoed from the wall. "Speak your truth." She looked to Daniel. Then, steady and clear, she spoke. "I am Kalira. daughter of fire, bearer of the spear, flame-born of Elith-Kare. The wall pulsed once, then Daniel, without knowing why, stepped forward. The wall flared bright red. Kalira turned quickly. "Daniel," but the voice spoke again. "Speak, the flame." Daniel took a deep breath. He didn't know what was happening, but he felt something inside him stir, like an old memory buried deep. Not his own. He closed his eyes and he whispered, "Theric Solon." The wall cracked open with a soft groan. Kalira gasped. "That's the name of the lost flamekeeper. No one alive remembers it." Daniel looked shocked. "I don't even know what it means." She stared at him. "It means the flame knows you better than you know yourself." Inside, the vault was quiet. The walls were covered in glowing names, not just written, they floated, glowing like gentle stars, names of warriors, names of kings, names of bondmates and fallen heroes. But in the center of the vault stood a single glowing pillar, and on it, 2 names were forming, 1 letter at a time. Kalira stepped forward and read them aloud. Elith-Kare, Theric Solon. She turned, slowly toward Daniel. "Those names are ours." Daniel frowned. "I'm not a legend, I'm just me." Kalira stepped closer. "Do you know what this place is? This vault doesn't just remember names, it remembers bonds, eternal ones, the kind written in fire." Daniel stepped back. "I didn't choose this." Kalira nodded. "Neither did I." They stood in silence again. But this time the silence was different. It wasn't confusion. It was understanding. Daniel sighed. "What happens now?" Kalira turned. "Now we take this truth back to the stars, and we face what's coming." Far above, in the skies of the Virelian Empire, the Council of the Nine, clans had gathered. Holograms lit up a grand chamber as alien leaders from every region met to discuss the disturbance in the flame line. "The princess is unstable," one elder said. "She has aligned with an off-worlder. That breaks every code." Another leader nodded. "The human must be silenced, before the flame itself is polluted." But one figure, older than the others, raised a hand. "We forget what the flame is," she said. "It is not a weapon, it is not a rule, it is a guide, and it is spoken." The others fell silent. She continued, "We must summon the flame-born princess. Let her speak. If the human carries the bond, then we are facing the start of a new era." The summons came days later. A silver drone flew across the cliffs, found Kalira and Daniel near the ruins, and projected the symbol of the council into the sky. Kalira stood with the wind in her hair. "They've called us." Daniel looked uneasy. "Do you think they'll believe us?" "No," she said. "But they'll listen." The journey back to the capital felt different this time. Not a prison march, not a mission of defiance, but a march toward truth. The people stared as their royal glider passed overhead. Some bowed, others looked away. Fear and hope mixed in the streets like 2 sides of the same coin. At the great hall, the 9 clans awaited them. Kalira entered first, wearing her ceremonial armor, not as a princess but as a speaker of flame. Daniel followed, unsure but steady. A low voice echoed. "Princess, human, you have broken laws." Kalira stepped forward, then changed them, because the flame already has. She placed the spear on the stone floor. It glowed golden. Gasps filled the hall. The council leaned in. Then Kalira said, clear and bold, "Let the flame decide." She looked at Daniel, and together they stepped forward. The spear rose from the ground and hovered. It spun once, released a pulse of golden fire, and branded the names into the air for all to see. Elith-Kare, Theric Solon, a silence deeper than any before filled the chamber. The oldest elder stood. "The prophecy has awakened. The bond is true. We must accept it, or fall." That night, the people of Virelia saw fire in the skies, not from war, but from the flame rings, ancient symbols of union and truth lighting up the stars. The age of the spear had ended. A new age had begun. The twin suns of Virelia rose slowly over the capital, painting the sky in soft gold and violet. The flame towers, once symbols of strict tradition and silent obedience, now glowed with a new kind of light. A light that pulsed gently, alive, with meaning. The city was changing, and so was its people. But even in the warmth of morning, uncertainty still lived in the shadows. Inside the royal hall, Daniel stood near a crystal window, watching the people gather in the distance. His clothes had been changed, simple robes of white and silver gifted by the council, but he still felt out of place. Behind him, voices argued. The 9 clans were still not united. Some of the elders had accepted the truth, acknowledging the bond between Daniel and Kalyra as a sign of a new era. But others, especially the Red Crest clan, believed the old order should never be broken. They fear what they don't understand, Kalyra said as she entered the chamber behind him. Daniel turned. They're not wrong to be afraid. Kalyra walked closer. Perhaps, but fear doesn't decide our future. We do. He looked at her, calm, firm, and royal in her quiet strength. Are you ready? She asked. Daniel didn't answer right away. Honestly, no, but I trust you, so I'll follow. She smiled. Then that's enough. The council had called for one final event before any change would become permanent. An open flame trial. It was a rare and ancient ceremony where the people themselves would witness the judgment of the sacred flame. The spear would be offered, the bond declared, and both Kalyra and Daniel would walk through the flame gate. If the flame accepted them both, the new law would be written in fire. If it rejected them, the punishment was exile or worse. Daniel tried not to think about that part. The day of the trial arrived. Tens of thousands of citizens gathered around the flame arena, a massive open-air circle carved into the heart of the city. Floating platforms carried council elders to their high seats. Flame beasts, giant winged creatures that only appeared during major events, circled the sky, watching silently. At the center of the arena, the flame gate stood waiting. It was made of pure crystal and old metal, tall and wide with twin braziers on each side. Inside its arch burned a swirling flame that shifted colors: red, gold, silver, violet. It was not a normal fire. It was alive. The flame of judgment. Kalyra stepped into the circle, wearing armor woven with her family's crest and lined with symbols of the spear. She held the glowing weapon in one hand. Daniel followed behind her, his face calm, but his heart pounding. The crowd was silent. The High Elder stood and spoke. Let the trial of bond begin. Step forward, Princess Kalyra, Flameborn of Virelia. Do you accept this outsider as your match through fire and fate? Kalyra spoke clearly. I do. Speak his name if it is true. Kalyra looked at Daniel. Then she said, Theric Solon. The flame flared golden. The elder turned. Daniel of earth, Theric Solon of fire, do you accept the flame of her name and the truth it brings? Daniel swallowed, then stepped forward. I do. Speak her name, if it is true. He looked straight into Kalyra's eyes and said, Aelith Karai. The flame rose even higher. The gate pulsed. Then the elder said the final words. Walk through the fire, and let the flame decide. Kalyra took Daniel's hand, and together, they stepped into the gate. For a moment there was only light, then memories. But not just theirs. Visions swirled around them, the past, the future, the truth hidden beneath generations of silence. They saw a time when humans and Virelians had once met long ago, not in war, but in peace. A secret alliance forgotten by history. A shared fire passed through bonds never written in books. They saw the creation of the first flame spear, formed not by metal alone, but by trust between species. And finally, they saw a child, A girl with white hair and earthborn eyes. She carried a spear and a book. Daniel gasped. Kalira tightened her grip. Then the light faded. They stood once again in the arena. But now the flame gate behind them was glowing pure white. The crowd gasped. The elder's voice trembled. The flame has accepted them completely. Kalira lifted the spear high. The golden light spread through the city, into the towers, into the streets, into every flame crystal that powered homes and ships. It reached across the sky. The bond had awakened not just 2 lives, but the fire of the empire itself. Over the next days, the world began to change. The Council of the Clans rewrote the old laws, allowing bonds between worlds, between people, and between flames never considered before. Daniel was offered a position beside Kalira, not as a ruler but as an advisor of flame, someone whose insight would help bridge the distance between Earth and Virelia. Ambassadors from nearby systems arrived, curious about the bond and the new leadership. Peace began to take root. One evening, Kalira and Daniel walked through the royal gardens. It was quiet now, the stars reflecting off the mirror lakes. Kalira paused. "Do you think your people will accept us?" Daniel smiled. "They're stubborn, but they're good, and when they hear what happened here, some will be afraid, others will be amazed, but many will understand." Kalira looked at him. "And what about you? Will you ever want to return to Earth?" Daniel was quiet for a while. Then he said, "Home isn't where you started. It's where you choose to stay." She nodded. The spear rested across her back. It no longer glowed with fire. It glowed with peace. She reached out and took his hand. And together, they stood beneath twin moons, bonded by fire, by fate, and by the names that once held secrets but now held hope.